Hello everyone, welcome to the lecture number 37 of this NPTEL lecture series on charging infrastructure. In this lecture, we will study the phase shifted full bridge converter, which is one of the commonly used isolated DC converter. So, we will see its operation and try to understand how and why it is being used. We will see that. Now, if we recap our last few lectures, what we have studied about the different PWM methods which can be applied to full bridge converter. So, PWM strategies for full bridge converters, we have seen that, and then we understood effectively there were 9 possibilities are there, and out of those 9 possibilities they can club together in 2 types of PWM called as a PWM type 1, which includes strategy number 1, 2, 3, and then we have PWM of type 2 where we have 4, 5 goes up to 9 possibilities. Now in this PWM type 1, we have seen that the diagonal switches, which are diagonal switches in the full bridge, diagonal switches turns off at the same time, and in the type 2 the diagonal switches turns off at the different times. At the same time, different times you can say, or staggered turning on, we can also say that at different times. Now because of these two things, what happens is that we have understood that in case when we have type 1, we were having 0 voltage switching during turn off case. However, we were not getting ZVS when it is turning on all the 4 switches. That means the possibility of achieving the soft switching is very minimal, or it is not possible, we can say, in the type 1 PWM where the diagonal switches turns off at the same time. However, in the type 2 based PWM, we have seen that at least the leading leg is surely achieving the ZVS turn on, while the lagging leg may or may not, depending upon the energy associated with the L leakage and the transformer primary current. Depending upon that, the lagging leg also may or may not get ZVS turn on. However, turn off case, that all the switches will go through it, because you have the output capacitances. Because of the output capacitance, it will achieve. But during the turn on, only the leading leg will surely achieve the 0 voltage switching, because the output inductor, which is enormously larger as compared to leakage inductor, is coming in series with the leakage inductor, and that is when it comes at the output of the leading leg half bridges, and that is when we can easily ensure that the voltages gets changed from V in to 0 or 0 to V in accordingly, and that is when we can ensure the body diode of the MOSFET turns on, and that is when we can, the moment the body diode turns on, we can ensure that the switch will turn on with the 0 voltage across it. So mostly in lighter load conditions, in some of the design when the leakages are very small, or when the output capacitance of the devices are enormously higher, and if the input voltages are very large, then during those cases the lagging leg will find a difficulty in achieving the 0 voltage switching during turn on. So if you wanted to achieve the soft switching, the possibilities is very higher, is very much in case of PWM type 2 as in the case of PWM type 1. Now another way of controlling the full bridge converter is nothing but doing the phase shift modulation. Now in the phase shifted based modulation, what happens is that we are not changing the duty ratio of the switches S1, S2, S3, S4. In previous case, if you recall, we were actually changing the turn on period of those switches, and accordingly we will get the required voltage at the output. But in this case, what we are doing, we are keeping the turn on to be fixed at, so we can say turn on of this S1, S2, S3, S4 is fixed at Ts by 2 period, and turn off is fixed at Ts by 2 period. However, we are providing the phase shift between this we can say, again we can use the same nomenclature, leading leg and lagging leg. we can provide the phase shift between leading leg and lagging leg and is able to control the output voltage depending upon the amount of phase shift we are giving between the leading leg and lagging leg. So, what I mean by that is, let us see. So, in this, here we are assuming ideal switches, and then we will start putting the non-idealities like output capacitances and leakage inductance of the transformer and seeing their effect as we go along. But as of now we will consider that these switches S1, S2, S3, S4 are actually the ideal switches. That is when the S1 turns off, we are turning on the S2 switch, and since we are turning on the S2 switch, this turns on up to the Ts by 2 period. This entire S2 switch turns on for Ts by 2 period. During that time, if we look very carefully, when the S1 turns off and S2 turn on, the switches in S3 and S4 is not changing its state. The switches in the lagging leg, which is S3 and S4, will change its state, that means S3. So, S3 will actually be turning on at point T equal to T2. Now, since my S3 is turning on at T equal to T2, what happens is that from T0 to T2, what is happening, my S2 and S4 switch is on. So, we can also say that if we look very carefully in the leading leg and lagging leg, we are actually doing the phase shift of indirectly we can say we are actually turning off the diagonal switches with a certain phase shift, let us say by phase shift by angle delta. Now, this delta what is there, we can write it to be nothing but T2 minus T0 during the period Ts by 2, and it is been there for 180 degree, because in Ts by 2 period we are actually encompassing 180 degree, and in entire Ts period we are actually encompassing 360 degree. So, portion of Ts by 2, that means T2 to T0, that is the angle delta you are giving the phase shift of between turning off of the diagonal switches in in the full bridge converter. So, this is the turning off of S1 and S4 is actually shifted from each other by an angle delta. Before that, when the S1 and S4 was on, we are actually applying from AB voltage, we are actually applying when S1 and S4 is on, these two are on, then you are actually applying V in voltage from VAB, and since VAB is applied over here, this DR1 gets forward bias, and that is when at this place we can get NV in voltage, where N is nothing but NS by NP. So, NV in voltage is applied at one end of the inductor, on another end we have V naught. So, here we can say that my voltage across L is nothing but NV in minus V naught, and the inductor current will then rise linearly with the positive slope. So, we can say the inductor current will rise linearly, something like this, by NV in minus V naught by L slope. Then what happens in between T0 to T2, between this T0 to T2, what happens is that we have actually turned off our S1 and we have turned on our S2 switch, and our S4 is still on. We are not turned off S4 switch the moment we are turning off S1 switch. We are pushed the turning off of S4 switch by certain angle delta. Now, during that time, what happens is that the S2 and S4 is on. So, during that time, the S2 and S4 is on. During this time, since my S2 and S4 is on, we are actually applying across VAB in this loop. If we do KVL, we apply, it is nothing but 0 voltage which we will be applying from the VAB. Since we are applying a 0 voltage from VAB, the inductor current has to find the this path to flow. That is when they got distributed among DR1 and DR2, and as a result of which the VR voltage is nothing but 0. At that point, my VL is nothing but minus V naught, and you will see that during this time my inductor current is actually falling to this place. So, here it is NV in minus V naught by L, and here it is minus V naught by L, it is falling. And then again at T equal to T2, I have turned off my S4 switch. Since I have turned off my S4 switch, I will now turn on my S3 switch. So, the S3 switch is on, and since S3 switch is on, so S3 is on and S2 is on, and because of that you are now applying minus V in across AB, and because it is minus V in, what happens is that this dr1 gets reverse biased and dr2 gets forward biased, and as a result what happens is that across vr we are again applying nv in voltage across it. And then after that again in the next cycle we are now applying 0 voltage from vr. That's when here again my vl is nothing but nv in minus v naught, and here it is my vl is nothing but minus v naught. So from this particular expression what we can write is my delta value is to be equal to T2 by T naught by Ts by 2, and this 180 degree we can take it there, and this value when you look from this particular relationship it is nothing but equal to 1 minus d. So that is why we can write that delta by 180 degree Ts by 2 is equals to 1 minus d Ts by 2. So which indicates that the phase shift is kind of directly related to the duty ratio D. So we can say that if we increase the delta, if we increase this delta, then what happens, the for more amount of time my VAB voltage is 0, that means my VR voltage is 0. That means we can say that my 1 minus dt Ts by 2 period is more. That is when if we do the calculation V naught is equals to N, we know that V naught is equals to N V in times D. So D will be smaller, and that is when we can say that the output voltage which is V naught is less. So if we increase this delta, the phase shift, we will reduce the output voltage, and that is when we can do one more kind of modulation. If you look carefully, the turn on time of S1, S2, S3 and S4 switches are kept same as Ts by 2. S2 turns on time is Ts by 2, S4 turn on time is also Ts by 2. So we are not changing the turn on period, it is kept at Ts by 2, but it is the time during which it is turned off, they are actually shifted by the angle delta, and which is actually leading to the output voltage variation. So this is one way by which you can get, but here if you look very carefully, since I am turning off my diagonal switches at different times, actually we are having the PWM type 2 kind of thing we have, and this we will use to achieve 0 voltage switching of devices. If you look here very carefully, it is you can say PWM type 2 scheme, and it is nothing but type 3C, or you can say modulation strategies 9, strategy 9 what we are talking about here in case of phase shifted full bridge. If you look very carefully, this is very easy to implement because you do not have to change the turn on time of your switches. You can keep a turn on time of the switches to be Ts by 2. However, you are just shifting the turn off time of the diagonal switches. Similarly for S2 and S3 you will also shifting the turn off time. So this modulation scheme called as a phase shifted modulation. So here what we have, we are actually keeping our turn on time of the all the 4 switches to be Ts by 2 and only giving the required phase shift between the turn off time of diagonal switches, that means S1 and S4 or S2 and S3. So that phase shift has to be given equally between S2 and S, turning off between S2 and S3 and turning off of S1 and S4. Now let us try to see how this particular converter works in different modes. Let us try to discuss in detail. So in this one, the first mode is obviously we were assuming that S1 and S4 is conducting. So before T equal to T0, what we are doing is we are your S1 and S4 was on the, let us say if these are MOSFETs, so channel is already formed and the current is actually flowing through the channel, and if this is the IP current through the L leakage and this is the IL current, so we can say that my IP is actually the IL current reflected onto the primary side, and it has the rising slope. And now what happens is that since these two switches are on, the VAB is nothing but equal to V in voltage we have, and this VR is nothing, VR is again this point VR, this voltage, this VR is nothing but NV in which has been applied. Now at t equal to t0, the S1 is turned off, that means the gate pulse to S1 is removed. So what happens is that since the current which is there is which is coming like this IP current, it is actually going and it is going through this channel here on this side, and what we see is that on this side because the current is coming out of this half bridge, the in the capacitance C1, and let us say this is C2, this is D1, let us say this is D2. So in C1 C2 the current will be going in this direction and C2 it will be in this direction. Now because of that what we will see is that if we recall in the previous case our in this case my VC4 is actually at, in this case VC4 is 0, VC3 is V in, and we can say VC1, all the capacitors C1, C2, C3, C4, VC1 is actually 0 and VC2 is actually equal to V in, because this is on means the entire voltage will coming across this capacitor C2. So in this case what happens is that here the C2 is actually discharging from a voltage V in, and we can say that the VC2 voltage is decreasing, and because the current is in this direction the C1 is charging from 0 voltage, and we can say VC1 is actually increasing. Now because of that what happens is that since in this case if we look very carefully, this VAB is nothing but equal to, if you take the loop in this direction, VAB is nothing but equal to VC2, and since the VC2 is discharging from V into to 0 voltage, V into 0 voltage, what we are seeing is that VAB is also falling down, and this falling down, if we take the slope, dVdt of this particular thing, this dVdt is nothing but equal to this current IP which was there at we can say T naught. Let us take this IP current is, let us say, I1. So we can say this I1 by, because of this capacitance, both the capacitance we have C1 plus C2. So we can say this slope is nothing but I1 by C1 plus C2. With that slope this voltage is falling, and since my VAB is falling, and again during that time my S4 is on, so S4 is on only. So and because of that, since IP is actually going in this direction, and which is again the reflected current from the output inductor, so what we can say that this IP is remain nearly constant, because we assume that L is large, and that's when we can say the IL ripple is very small, or the ripple current in the inductor is very small. So hence we can say the IP is nearly constant, and let us define this number to be I1, and this is not nearly constant, and this slope is actually limited by this current I1 which is coming out of the bridge, and the C1 and C2. And so what we saw, the moment we give turn off of this S1 switch, we are actually, we can say that this voltage at the output of this bridge, which is VA, let us say VAN, is actually having the limited dVdt at the output of the bridge. Then if you look very carefully in this particular system, if we try to see what is the scenario which is happening, we can write down in this way that define this as IP, C1, C2, C3, C4, D1, D2, D4 and D3. And since we have not discussed about VR, since my this diode DR1 is on, so this VR voltage is actually the reflection of what is there in the VAB, so which is also falling to 0. So we can write down IP T0 is nearly same as IP T1, and that we define as nothing but I1 current. And we know that the VC2 is actually discharging and VC1 is actually charging. So we can write down this VC1 I mean obviously function of t, it is charging from 0 voltage, so and it is charging with the current I1 current. We can write I1 by this current is nothing but C1 plus C2, both the capacitor C1 and C2, and this we can say, you know, in this particular period we can say that it is nothing but t minus t naught, because it is rising linearly because of this, because this current is constant, so it will rise linearly. So now we can say that this equation we can say, and in this particular equation if we assume C1 to be nearly equal to C2 to be nearly equal to C, we can say that Vc1 of t is nothing but I1 by 2C t minus t naught, and the rate with which it is charging, Vc1 is charging, in the same manner the Vc2 is discharging. So we can say that Vc2 is nothing but my Vin voltage minus my Vc1 voltage. So because you know if you do the KVL in this loop, the Vc2 is nothing but Vin minus Vc1, so it is nothing but I1 by 2C t minus t naught. And we can say that at t equal to t1, at that point, at this point, what happens is that the entire you know Vc1 at t1 is actually is you know charged to Vin, and we can say Vc2 at t1 is actually becomes 0. So this is the end of this period. What we see that because of the constant current coming out of this bridge, why the constant current? Because the output inductor current is actually getting reflected. That means in other words you can say this L leakage and this output inductor L is coming in series, and that both these inductor along with this the load current which is enormously higher, we will get good amount of energy which is been there with them, and which is actually charging the C1 capacitor and completely discharging the C2 capacitor to 0. That is when my D2 gets turned on, and that is when we can get S2 to be turned on with a 0 voltage switching. So at t equal to t1 we will get this particular scenario which is shown over here, and we can say that the time between, in this equation if we write, so we can say the time between t01, we can just write, because this is nothing but t1 minus t0 is nothing but equal to, we can write to be 2C V in by I1. Now this particular term which is 2C V in by I1, this time we must provide this time, because in this time the C2 voltage is actually going to 0. After T01 the Vc2 voltage is equals to 0. That is when the diode can turn on, and if the diode turns on, we know that the S2 will go for 0 voltage turn on, because the diode, because since the diode turns on, the voltage across S2 is actually 0. So now what happens is that, now let us take the next mode where what we are doing is, since the voltage of Vc2 goes to 0, the diode D2, which is here D2, this C2, C1, D1, C3, D3, C4, D4. So here, since the Vc2 goes to 0, the diode D2 turns on, and that T2 turns on to meet the IP current. So here in the previous case we can also say that, in the previous case we can, in this case we can also say that IC1 plus IC2 is nothing but equal to IP current which is coming out of this half bridge. However, in this case IC1 will no longer be conducting, and this voltage is nothing but V in. So we can say that Vc1 is actually V in at this point at t equal to t1. So we can say that during that time the diode D2 turns on, and you can say the ID2 is completely equal to IP current which is coming out of the half bridge. So this is what we will see in this particular case, where what we see is that this diode gets turned on, however the S4 is still on. Since diode turns on, since D2 is on, after some time, now what is the time? We will see that after some time the switch S2 can turn on with 0 voltage switching. Why I am saying 0 voltage switching? Because the moment diode turns on, the voltage across this drain to source of this switch is actually equal to 0, because this diode is already on. Since the diode is on, the voltage is nearly 0, or I mean some forward voltage drop of diodes are there, but you can imagine it to be very small, maybe 2 to 3 volt as compared to V in, which is some 400 or 500 volts, more than 400 volts. So that is nearly 0. So what we are seeing is that the diode turns on. So after some time we can give the switch S2 gate pulse. So in the previous case, if we see in the first case, if you see the first case, mode 0 S1 was on, we have removed the gate pulse from the S1 such that in order to maintain the IP current, C1 and C2 comes into picture, and during that time there were no gate pulses to be given both to S1 and S2, and they will be only given after certain, once the diode turns on, the point after which the S2 gate pulse is given is nothing but that time. So what happens? You can give this gate pulse before itself, before this also. However, if you give before T1, then what will happen is that the voltage across this C2 will not be equal to 0. That's when the diode will not get turned on, and whenever you turn on the S2 switch, you will see certain finite switching loss across this device S2. So we can say that because this is there, if we can ensure, if that time is the given that time, that means the time after which the gate pulse of S2 switch can be given logic 1, if the dead time is greater than T01, which you can say the dead time is greater than, T01. If we try to recall what is T01, it is 2C V in by I1. If we can ensure this two condition is there, then the ZVS turn on of S2 switch is possible. So that time greater than 2C V in by I1 is the required condition that one must provide in order to ensure that this C2 voltage, VC2 voltage, the voltage of the capacitance C2 goes to 0. That's when diode turns on, and when the diode turns on, you can have the 0 voltage across the switch, and then you can give the turn on pulse to the S2 switch. So we can say that after some time, or just right after the T1 duration, at that point also you can give any pulse, or at T equal to T1, which is the boundary condition of that time, at that point also one can give, where you will receive nearly 0 voltage switching. However, if we ensure that that time is greater than this one, this 100% ensures that we are achieving the 0 voltage turn on of the switch S2. Now you have given the gate pulse. So once you give the gate pulse, this device gets turned on, this diode D2 remove from this conduction path of this current IP. So we can say that, so after some time between T1 and T2, the gate pulse to S2 can be given, which ensures ZVS turn on of S2 switch, or you can say in other words, leading leg switch, because the same thing will repeat in the other way around when we are going from S2 to S1. So we can say that in order to achieve the ZVS, to ensure ZVS, we must ensure that the dead time has to be greater than 2 CV in by I1, where C is nothing but C1 equal to C2, the output capacitance of the devices, if we assume the same devices we are using. And this is the dead time for the leading leg, only for the leading leg. We are not talking about switches of the lagging leg. Lagging leg switches is still on, S4 is still on, this lagging leg. So it is the dead time for the leading leg has to be greater than 2 CV in by I1, which ensures that my this particular thing is happening. And we can, if we take the IL current to be nearly equal to I naught current, so we can say that the I1 is nearly equal to I1 reflected onto the, this IL which is reflected onto the IP. So you can say that IP is nearly equal to N times IL. So since my IL is nearly equal to I naught, we can say that I1 is nearly equal to N I naught. So from there we can calculate this N I naught, and from there we know that what is my dead time or the for the leading leg. Now since my S2 switch is turned on, so what happens is that it goes on up to this T2 point, and at T2 at T2 at T2 at T equal to T2, the switch S4, that means now we are dealing with the lagging leg switch S4, or which is a lagging leg switch. Switch, the gate pulse of that turns off, the gate pulse of S4 switch gets removed. And since here I have already given the gate pulse of S2, so you can see on the leading leg my S2 is already on. And now after certain point, after at T equal to T2, that means between T0 between T2 to T0 is nothing by my delta phase shift, is nothing but equal to the phase shift we are giving, okay, from T2 to T2 to T0. However, we see that what will happen is that since we are turning off my S4 switch, again this the output capacitance of S3 switch and S4 switch C3 and C4 will now start appearing across it. Now if you look very carefully, till this point my IL is there. However, in this case what happens is that since my C3 and C4 capacitance is coming here, and we have the IP current which is going like this on this side. Now this IP current will come here and it will come on this side and goes to C4 in this direction and goes to C3 in this direction. I mean from here it goes to the top direction. And if you recall previously case, here this was off, so VC3 we can say in this case VC3 is nothing but V in, and VC4 is equals to 0. Now here what happens is that C3 is discharging from V in voltage and C4 is charging from 0 voltage because of the direction of the current. Now since, and we can say that here in this case my VAB voltage, since my S2 is on, the VAB voltage is nothing but equal to minus VC4. And since I am now applying minus VC4 voltage which is coming in, and which is actually, since my VC4 voltage is charging, my VC4 voltage is charging, that's when you will see that my VAB is actually going in this direction. And since it is going in this direction, in this VAB is actually going in the negative direction, the IP will no longer be equal to, we can say that here VC4 is increasing. Since my VAB voltage is negative applied across the leakage inductance across this VAB, so we can say that IP will no longer be reflected IL current or output inductor current, which is here. Now since IP is not at all equal to IL, so in order to ensure this current to be continuously flowing, this DR1 and DR2 both gets turned on, and we can say that IL is now equal to DR1 plus DR2. Both we can say that this indicate DR1 and DR2 gets forward bias, and since they got forward bias, the VR voltage which is over here is actually is nothing but equal to 0. And if you see in the previous section, the VR voltage here, VR voltage, if you see this one, the VR voltage which is over here is nothing but the reflected voltage from the VAB which is coming from here, which is actually 0 here. If you see in the previous in in this mode also, in mode 1 also, it is nothing but this VR voltage is the same thing which is following by VAB, and previously also it is the reflected voltage what we have seen from the VAB which was NV in. So in the mode 3, in spite the VAB is increasing in the reverse direction, the VR is still 0, because in order to ensure the inductor current to be flowing both DR1 and DR2 gets forward bias, that's when my VR is still be equal to 0. Since my this voltage VR voltage is 0, similarly since both the diodes are on, this entire secondary side winding gets short circuited like this. Since because of this short circuited, what happens is that the voltage across this is nearly 0, and we can say that the entire VAB is imposed upon a leakage. The entire VAB is imposed upon L leakage, and we can also say that in this way this L leakage is actually in this circuit, it is going in this direction, coming like this, and some portion is actually, since some portion goes over here and some portion goes over here, this comes from here, and from here it comes back, some portion goes from here and it actually comes to here. So this is what we get in both the things. What is happening is the L leakage is in resonance with C3 plus C4. And if you look in this one, since L leakage is in resonance with C3 and C4, so this current, IP current, which is going in this direction, coming out of this point B, some portion is going through C4 and comes back from the S2 switch to the back to the loop, while the other portion of the current is going through the C3 via the source V in, and through the S2 it comes back to the inductor L. So if you see in this loop, it goes here in this way, comes back, while the other portion comes from here, goes here in this way, and then comes through V in and goes over here this way. So if we try to see the equivalent circuit, it will look like we have L leakage, and then we have a C3 capacitor, and the C4 capacitor is coming parallel to C3, because the portion of the current which is coming at this point B is going, some portion is going to C3 and C4, and that is when is actually getting connected in this manner, and this particular thing we can say that that is nothing but your IP of t. So this is the way by which you can define your equivalent circuit, and then we can write this. Since if you look very carefully in our this thing, if we define this as I2, and this I2 is actually the peak value of the current from here, so we can just write IP of t is to be nothing but I2 cos omega 1 t minus T2, where we can say omega 1 to be nothing but equal to the L is doing resonance with the two C3 and C4, so we can just write the resonance frequency is nothing but L leakage C3 plus C4, and it is only happening because my L leakage is now is coming in resonance with this thing. So since this omega 1 is, you can say that a resonance frequency, and so here we can say C3 is nearly equal to C4, we can just write C, and that's when we can write my omega 1 to be equal to 1 by 2 L leakage into C. And then if you look very carefully this IP we got, so we can just write Vc4 of t to be, since this IP current is charging two capacitances, we can write 2C, both C3 and C4 integration my IP current which is going into it times dt, which will give me 2c. This integration of cos will be sine I2 sine omega t minus t2. And this, when we put this omega value over here, what we will get is nothing but to be equal to L leakage by 2c times I2 sine omega minus t minus t2. This is VC4. And then we can calculate VC3. If we apply KVL in this loop, we can apply KVL, and that will be nothing but V in minus VC4 of t, and that we can write V in minus under root L leakage by 2c. This, how we got this under root this thing? If we put omega 1 to be equal to 1 by 2 L leakage c, so 2 L leakage c will go up, and so L leakage, under root L leakage will be there, and this divided by 2c, it will be under root comes over here, and that will be nothing but I2 sine omega t minus t2. So with this voltage, VC3 voltage is going down, with sinusoidal fashion it is going down, and VC4, the voltage across the capacitor C4, is actually charging up with that sinusoidal manner. Sorry, I have done one mistake. I have missed the here 1, so it is omega 1 here, omega 1 here, and omega 1 here. So we will discuss the conditions for the dead time for this lagging switch, because leading we have already defined the dead time condition. We will define these conditions in the next lecture. So we will see you in the next lecture, and thank you very much for patiently listening to this lecture. Thank you.